All right, guys, welcome back to the Let's Talk Ball pod. This is going to be episode 20. It has been a while since you've heard from us. We took a couple weeks off during Christmas, and then the episode after the Christmas stuff, there were some technical difficulties. So, long story short, I think it's been about a month or so since we've talked, but we are here ready to catch up on the Premier League once again. We're going to touch on Arsenal and United, of course, but everything in between as well. But Spain, before we do that, how are you?
Doing well. Coming off a tough draw for Arsenal this past weekend. Watching that with some friends. Unfortunately, I met up to watch the Liverpool game with friends, so I had a double dose of a hard watch, thinking that Liverpool were going to draw, that Brentford was going to hold on for that draw, only to see Darwin come on and break my heart, and then for Arsenal to give a two-goal lead, and then also have a late winner chalked off. It was a tough Saturday for me in terms of watching some soccer, but overall, been doing well. How are you?
Nice, nice. I can imagine that was a tough watch for you. United wasn't much better on Sunday, so I can kind of relate. And then, in general, today's been good. It is snowing here in Atlanta. It's been coming down pretty good. The roads are definitely covered. But outside of that, I got to watch some Champions League football today. The Barcelona game today was absolutely bonkers. Anyone that has not seen the Barcelona versus Benfica highlights, go stop what you're doing right now and go watch those. I had a 7-leg parlay on that game, and the only leg that was losing was Barcelona, and I'd pretty much given up on it. So that was pretty exciting, seeing that go in at the end. I had a little bit more of a dog in the fight and just wanted to see a nice comeback. So can't complain too much today. I think my luck's up right now, so I'll take it.
That's hype because that game was nuts. Some crazy goals, some lucky goals, had everything. Some penalties. The game had it all.
Yeah,
Rafinha is
definitely.
on fire right now.
He is. He's just like the king of the end product for Barcelona. He's like either assisting or scoring. I feel like every single goal I see them score, it's crazy. Let's see. Well, I think that's enough of an intro. Let's jump right into. I want to start with Arsenal. If you want to just kind of recap what's gone on with Arsenal over the last few weeks and how you're feeling about the club in general and where you guys are at.
Yeah, we've had a pretty rough go at it lately. Since our last pod, we had the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. We lost 2-0 to Newcastle in the Carabao Cup. I felt like that was a game we were going to lose, and we did. So I'm not too bummed about it. This is the first leg. It was at home, which I think which sucked if it was at home. I can't remember now. But just given the short turnaround from the Brighton game and our injuries, I was expecting us to win that and give Newcastle's form. Then we got knocked out of the FA Cup by your guys, United, and PKs. We won the North London derby, and then we drew 2-2 against Aston Villa over the weekend.
Yeah.
Yes, that was it. And just going, I said we dive into the FA Cup maybe, or do you want to hold that for later so we talk about both teams?
We could dive into the FA Cup, and then I just don't have to touch on it too much later. I'm going to start with that.
Yeah, so we lost some PKs. I thought we controlled the game, were the better team overall, created a lot more, had tons of chances, but just didn't convert. Even you guys went down a man, and we still couldn't convert. Odegaard missed a PK, and kind of once he missed the PK, I kind of felt like it was going to go to penalty kicks, and we were going to lose. Just kind of felt like one of those games because you guys were just holding on, fighting for dear life, and it ended up happening and working out for you guys. But it's just the story of what it's been lately is Arsenal not able to convert chances, and that's what came back to bite us, in my opinion, in the FA Cup game against United.
Yeah, I would agree with that analysis. It seemed like Arsenal had like a good showing overall that was just overshadowed by some bad finishing. And I agree that's just been the story of Arsenal for like the last few weeks is, as much as they can control games and dominate possession, keep the ball in the final third even, it just seems like they're lacking that cutting edge and that clinicality. And unfortunately, it seems like Kai Havertz hasn't been able to put like some big chances away. Odegaard is still trying to kind of like he is contributing, he's creating chances, but at the same time, it just seems like you want a little bit more out of him in the final third as well. And I'm not really sure what Arsenal can do other than recruit more players in January to kind of come in and add as reinforcements because it doesn't seem like they've got the options on the bench either with all the injuries that they've got.
Mm-hmm. Other than our players fighting for him, we don't have any options off the bench. Havertz scored this past weekend against Villa, which was great to see. So did Martinelli. But yeah, we just need them to be more consistent and find more goals out of those two players. Trossard has been really great lately. He assisted both goals in the Villa match. He's been stepping up for us and finding form, which is great to see. But we really need Havertz, Martinelli, and Odegaard to step up and score more goals. I really do think Odegaard needs to have more of an impact on games with him being the captain, with Saka being out. I'd love to see him kind of take the game by the scruff of the neck and score goals and make something happen. He seems a little passive, and I'd love to see him just be a little more aggressive and make more of an impact on the game.
Yeah. I think we don't need to dive too much into the United side of the FA Cup, but I guess so. You had the Carabao Cup loss, you had the United You had the loss to United in PKs in the FA Cup, and then North London Derby. You guys won that. And then you have the 2-2 draw against Villa. Between the North London Derby and the draws against Villa, how are you feeling about your performances in the league? About the same?
Yeah, still not great, honestly. Even though we like really dominated the game against Tottenham and created a ton of chances. Declan Rice in the interview after the game said we should have won 10-1. A little hyperbolic there, but we completely dominated the game. Other than the Son's goal, Kulusevski might have had a good chance, but we really should have had 4 or 5 goals in the first half alone against Tottenham. And
Hmm.
even with that being said, like myself, and every single Tottenham fan or Arsenal fan that I know did not even celebrate the win against Tottenham. Partly because it was like a midweek game, but also just because I think we're just kind of jaded right now as a fan group. We want more, expect more from the team. Like, yeah, we beat Tottenham in the North London Derby, and we should celebrate that. But it just feels hard to celebrate that when we're not convinced by our performance right now, seeing the players we have and the lack of finishing. We felt like something like Villa was going to happen, basically. It was hard to celebrate because we were just wary that we were going to slip up and not be able to see another big win against Villa, and that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one thing that I've kind of felt with Arsenal, and I guess we can, or I was going to touch on this when we talked about the Villa game, but I can touch on it now, is I feel like the mentality of the team has dropped a bit. Like, I think you guys were a bit unlucky at the beginning of the season, but then some of the unluckiness has now seeped into a lack of confidence, whether it's coming with the finishing or I just feel like at times where I feel like the last couple seasons you saw like those late winners against Bournemouth or Luton Town and stuff like that, where Arsenal was pulling out wins and pulling out clutch moments. I feel like it's almost not the exact opposite because the results haven't been terrible, but I still feel like there's a bit of a lack of confidence that I wasn't seeing in Arsenal teams of the last like year and a half or so.
hmm Yeah, it's not there right now. We're not getting those late wins. We're not seeing that many outstanding performances by many players, other than I think Gabrielle and Miles Lewis Skelly. They've been really
Hmm.
solid recently. But I mean, it's kind of sad that an 18-year-old is been our best performer over the past 5 weeks or however long it's been, and he's the one inspiring the most out of our team. It kind of goes back to the old Mikel Arteta days when Saka, Martinelli came onto the scene and were our driving forces. So yeah, that's a great point about the mentality not being there because none of our veteran senior players are really stepping up to the plate and giving the fans the belief that we need to really get behind our team and cheer us on and really believe that we can go on to win the season. Because it was only a 4 point gap after the Tottenham game, and because Liverpool dropped points to Forest, and even though I wasn't like, celebrating the win because everything I said previously, kind of having the lack of faith in our finishing, only a 4 point gap, and it's definitely doable. It's still only 6 points with a game in hand to Liverpool, but there's a lot of games left, I think 15 left. So plenty of time, but Arsenal needs to show us with a convincing win and lots of goals and more consistent goal scoring that we can compete to get the fans behind them again.
Yeah, I agree. I think right now is a bit of a I don't know if an inflection point is the right word for Arsenal, but I feel like things could kind of go one of two ways right now. Like I think Arsenal either figures it out right now in these last couple weeks of January, maybe brings an extra player in there too, and then is able to like kind of kick on and really put the pressure on Liverpool. Or I feel like things could get a little toxic and like the confidence could continue to fall. If some of the fans continue to get more and more disgruntled, and then it kind of the wheels kind of fall off the cart, for lack of a better term. But we shall see. I do like one thing that you did point out earlier was that I wanted to make sure we talked about was Miles Lewis Skelly. I think he's been an awesome bright point in some less than satisfying performances. I think he's someone that like I personally, as a neutral fan, really enjoyed watching. He's come in and is so technically gifted, but also physically, and then his mentality. Like I love seeing the way that he kind of got pushed off the field at the North London Derby and started hyping up the fans as he was like getting subbed off. Like I thought that was electric, and I think it's really awesome to see. Just a young player come in and have that kind of impact. And then him, Ethan, and Nwaneri are two really good bright spots for Arsenal moving forward. So at least the future is definitely bright with those two.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even just that Lewis Kelly's came in and like done a job. He's come in and like been one of our best players and one of our most creative players playing at left back. Like you said, he's super solid both physically and mentally. Loves to get stuck in, which you really love to see as a fan. But he's so calm on the ball, you never feel like he's going to lose it. And he's also got the confidence and the awareness to pick a final ball. He played in a superb ball into Trossard late in the game that Trossard should have finished to get him one-on-one against Martinez, and Trossard barely put it wide. Lewis Kelly did in the Champions League. He played a great reverse ball as well, I think, to Jesus, that led to a goal. He's created so much at left back, inverting in. So to see an academy kid at 18 come in with the confidence to step up and also to play that final ball and to have the talent to do that has been immense for us. And we need more players to follow in his lead and do the same thing.
Yeah, should be interesting to see what happens with him and in what areas they develop. And then I know another talented youngster that you guys have, which maybe he'll make his debut this season or not, is this kid named Max Dowman. I've heard his name thrown out a lot. He's 14 years old, but already training with the first team multiple times. And apparently he's supposed to be the most talented kid coming up through England across like all age groups right now. So he's one to watch out for. I don't know if he can make, obviously, I don't think he'll make any meaningful impact this season at such a young age, but it seems like Arsenal's got a good crop of youngsters to rely on, not just now, but in the future.
Yeah, that's great. And back to your point though about whether like we're at an inflection point and you can see us either like going on and turn things around or having the wheels kind of fall off. I think it's going to turn around positively. Just knowing how we've been in the past 3 years, knowing Arteta standards and the quality of our players, and having a good. I don't want to like blame everything on injuries, but we did have Saliba this past weekend, which forced Timber to play center back and then Partey to play right back. Which is not an ideal back line. I mean, that's kind of a crazy back line. If you would have told me beginning of the season we're going to have Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back, Gabriel, Timber, who's a right or left back primarily, and then Partey at right back, that's not something I would expect or want to see. So having players playing different positions isn't great. And then going back to like having to start Sterling is terrible, or having him as the only option off the bench because he's useless is not great. But Saliba should be back soon, thankfully, because there were reports that he was going to be out longer, but it should be just hopefully back for the next Premier League game next weekend. Calafiori should be back. He's back in training, so he should be back soon. And Ranieri is also back in training. So a little bit more reinforcements coming in, which is going to be really important for us because, like I said, we're lacking in reinforcements drastically.
Nice.
And
Well, it'll be interesting.
Hopefully we do sign one or two players. I'll be shocked if we don't sign any reinforcements because that just shows kind of a lack of belief in Arteta and our project right now. So it'd be really, really disappointing as a fan for us to sign no one. I don't know if things would be anyone great because it's the winter transfer window, but we have to sign someone if we want to give this season a go for the title.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. I was going to say it's going to be interesting to see what moves, if any, you guys make in the transfer window to try and bolster. Like it sounds like you guys could probably use someone in that front four, like another goal scorer, someone that's probably going to offer a little bit more threat, like on the counter and in transition, and just kind of like more of like I don't want to say like a flary player because I don't mean like dribble flair, but like just someone that is kind of capable of creating like a magic moment. Someone that's capable of just kind of breaking a game state when things are getting stale. You need someone that's gonna kind of trying to take the game by the scruff of the neck, like you said earlier, and really like push things. So hopefully you guys can get that in.
Yeah, the two Robbies mentioned after the North London derby, I think, that Arsenal needs a goal scoring midfielder, a la Frank Lampard. I thought that was a pretty good observation, just because Rice hasn't been putting in the goals, Marino hasn't chipped in as much, and Odegaard isn't either. But that's made me think, it's just a random point I wanted to bring up, but a prime Aaron Ramsey would really hit right now, because when that man was on, he was scoring some crazy goals and bagging lots of goals in midfield. So we could find someone like that. Not as good because he was on a crazy run at that point, but a midfielder that could find goals for us would be awesome. Like you said, kind of a creative player, someone just a late box crasher would be really nice for us.
Yeah, nice. You got anything else on Arsenal before we move on to United?
Just quickly on the Villa game, we went up 2-0, and I felt really good. I felt confident. But around the 60th minute point, Villa kind of kicked it into gear. Because I thought we really controlled the game up until then. Started getting behind us, and we just kind of let runners get goal side, which is never what you want, which led to two other goals. We had a winner that got chalked off rightfully for Havertz handball, and then we hit the post. Marino hit the post late. Trossard got in late. Just things didn't go our way late in the game. But it just comes down to finishing our chances and being more solid in the back. I'd like to think if like Saliba was in there, we wouldn't have given up 2 goals like that. But hard to say. Hindsight 2020. Just a bummer that we drew a game that we had, in my opinion, fully in control up to the 60th minute.
Yeah. I think it's also pretty interesting that I feel like the reason that Arsenal kind of fell off in that first season that you guys had the title charge was really closely related to Saliba's injury at the end of the season. And it's pretty interesting that you guys kind of haven't successfully recruited a Saliba backup to this point. Thankfully, Saliba's injury doesn't seem too serious this time. He's probably going to be back soon. But I feel like he's such a key player that you would hope that you would have brought in some type of replacement there, or a replacement for Saka, or just more replacements for some of the key players in the team. It's something interesting I thought of.
Yeah, with Timber and Calafiori, they're more, I guess, like outside backs. But Calafiori's played in the back three a lot. So I think it's kind of like reinforcements by numbers and by versatility. So like you could play Calafiori at right center back if you needed to, even though he's left-footed, or move Gabriel over there. Timber was okay. Timber was good. And over the weekends, we got him. Tomiyasu's also injured. Who can play center back. So between like those three,
Yeah.
you'd hope there should be like enough for them to cover that spot. So maybe that's the thinking there. Because we
Yeah.
did, because we, I mean, no one thought we should have went in with so much money for Calafiori, because we needed a striker, and he's an expensive defender who can't play center back, but he is
Hmm.
injury prone. So not great.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot about Tomiyasu. I forgot he's part of the squad even because I feel like he came back and was probably re-injured again real soon. I don't even remember what happened this season.
I don't think he's even played this season. If he did, it was
Okay.
like a game.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, let's see. You got anything else, Arsenal?
I'm good.
Nice. So let's move over to catching everyone up on Manchester United. It's kind of difficult to figure out where to start because I feel like in the last couple of weeks it's just been up. It was up, it was real down, and then up with Liverpool and Arsenal, and then back down again with Southampton and Brighton. So off the back of
80 minutes of Southampton. Yeah, I guess.
yeah, exactly, yeah, like the Southampton started the down, and then it was a slight up just because we won, but it was still like a
Mm-hmm.
disappointing performance. We came off the back of a 2-2 draw at Liverpool, where everyone thought United would, showed some fight. They were able to go to Anfield and come away with a respectable point, and then followed that up with a decent performance against Arsenal. They didn't dominate or control the game by any means, but good fight to be down with 10 men for like 70 minutes and get it to PKs and then be able to win that PK shootout. And then off the back of that, Bruno Fernandes and Amorim said the same thing after Liverpool. They said Amorim basically said, I'll learn more about my team in the games that we play against Southampton and Brighton than the games that we play against Liverpool and Arsenal. And he was right because it's just one of those things. United seems to have a mental block when it comes to playing teams that they should be about even with or better than. And I don't know what exactly happened, but I would say Arsenal, like I said, was a decent performance and then ended up winning in PKs. And then Southampton was a mostly poor performance that was saved by an Ahmad hat trick in the last 12 minutes of the match. And then we go to Brighton, or Brighton came to Old Trafford, and we put up just an overall poor performance, and especially in the second half. And it was capped off with an Onana individual error that made us lose 3-1. And I guess I'm left thinking, I'm not really sure what to think about Manchester United right now. Um, and Amorim is very disappointed himself. I thought one thing that I thought was interesting was he came out after this last game in his press conference and said, this United team is maybe the worst Manchester United team in history. And I know that was his big clickbait title, but he knew what he was doing. I listened to the whole post-match press conference, and he was just kind of talking about the team in general and talking about the pressures around the team and why the team isn't performing as well in some of these matches, especially at home. And he specifically said before he said that comment, he said, "This is going to be your headline. Maybe we're the worst Manchester United team in history." And he kind of said it with a laugh, but at the same time, it is a true statement at the fact that like we're sitting at 13th in the league more than halfway through the season, and we seem to be struggling to get points. And I'm not really sure how we're going to improve as a team without getting more time on the training ground, but that seems pretty minimum right now. So I guess I'm left thinking, where does Manchester United go from here? But I guess before I go with what I think they need to fix, what have you kind of observed of United over the last few matches?
It's been a mess, and after the good results against Arsenal and Liverpool and Arsenal, I kind of knew or figured you guys were going to throw up some stinkers. Just 'cause it's kind of been United recently over the past couple of years. Anytime you do something good, it's usually followed up by an even more disappointing result to a worse team. So yeah, I'm just not really surprised. I think like mentality is not really there. A lot of individual mistakes and errors. Yeah, it's kind of like really bad season for United. Amarin doesn't have it figured out yet, which is understandable because he's pretty new. But I think this was really poor, but I'm not really surprised by the inconsistencies. But I am surprised at how low you guys are. You guys should not be that low given the fact that you're United and the talent you have. One thing I think Amarin could do, or I'm surprised about, is that he's switching up the team so much. I know he's trying to figure things out, but I do think he needs a little bit more consistent lineup. Like I thought by now he would realize that Højlund is his best striker, so I don't know why he's starting Xerxes in Premier League games really. So I just think the consistency would help out the team, and that's what I'm most surprised about is the lack of consistent lineups. Despite him trying to figure things out, but trying to get some type of players playing together, I think would help the team a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's. I guess as far as like the consistent lineups, I think it's become a little bit more consistent over the last few weeks. Besides, yeah, I think the strikers where we've seen the most switch up, and I can see why he's done that with the Højlund Xerxes. I think he's been treating Højlund as the starter But then in the Southampton games, Højlund had like kind of his second or third kind of poor performance in a row. And then Xerxes came on, and I actually think in the Southampton game, Xerxes was. It's hard to say he was as much of a game changer as Ahmad because Ahmad scored the hat trick, obviously. But I think without Xerxes coming onto the pitch, I don't think Ahmad would be able to change the game in the way that he did. So I can understand giving Xerxes his chance because I think that was something that I wanted to touch on as far as like my three biggest issues facing United at the moment. I guess I can just kind of go into that, and then I'll touch on the Xerxes thing and why he's been going with Xerxes. But before that, actually, I want to say I feel like Amram's biggest issue right now is there are a lot of individual errors, and he just needs to get the confidence in the team back up. But I think it's hard to do that without the time on the training ground, and I think it's just kind of like an impossible job at the moment. I think he hasn't been perfect himself tactically, but especially like his first, like he's lost probably 8 games in the league since coming. And I want to say like his first 4 to 5 of them, I would have blamed on more individual errors than tactical stuff. And then now it's just gotten to the point of where the team is just low on confidence and the tactics haven't been great. But again, I digress. I think these are the 3 biggest issues that are facing Manchester United right now. Number 1 is going to be our defensive shape and our defensive execution. Everyone knows that we have been failing at our set piece defense, but Southampton had not scored a goal from a set piece all year, all season long, and not even 30 seconds after the announcer stated that fact, we gave up a goal from a set piece against Southampton. So that was really disappointing. But even without that, we play this kind of 5-4-1 or 5-2-3, depending on like what the opposition is doing. And having 5 people in our back line makes it really difficult to apply pressure up top. Because Xerxes or Højlund, whoever the striker is often like 1-on-2 or even 1-on-3 at times with the opposition's backline when the opposition backline has the ball, and it makes it a little harder to apply pressure, and they have a lot more time to find an open man and kind of move things around. And I think that's something that Amram has to fix tactically. Like I think that's been a consistent theme that I've noticed over the last few matches, and I think out of possession, I know we're starting with like this back 3 with wing backs to make it like a back 5, but I think it needs to like kind of tilt in a way to be more of like a back 4 and get more bodies up the pitch to try and apply more pressure and make us harder to play against. Otherwise, I think we're going to keep getting picked apart and not going to be able to impose ourselves without the ball as much. And I wouldn't mind if we're not able to impose ourselves without the ball as much, but that leads into my issue number 2 is if we can't impose ourselves without the ball, we need to be able to control the game more with the ball. But we haven't been able to do that because the second biggest issue is our poor build-up play. I think the team has had a lack of training time so that when it comes to playing through presses and whatnot, we're not as confident with that. And because we're not as confident, I find us playing long a lot. What you'll see United do is they'll play with their 3 center backs. The center back kind of steps up into midfield. So that blocks with him being in the midfield, it draws defenders essentially, and it makes it hard to like find the midfielders from the back line. So what you'll see United do, if you watch carefully, is we'll pass it to either one of our right or left center backs. And then they almost inevitably either pass back to Onana or pass it out to one of the wing backs who drops deep to receive. And then that wing back is under pressure. And I think we've been coached to just kick the ball long at that point. So like if we try and play out from the back, 75 to 80% of the time it goes long to the striker. And then if our hold-up play has not been good, and if our striker can't hold up the play, we end up losing the ball, we lose possession, and then thus lose control. And I think going back to our original point and why I was bringing up the biggest issues United face is Højlund has particularly struggled with his hold-up play more than I would have expected for a player of his stature. And so I think that's why we've gone with Xerxes, because against Southampton, Xerxes was actually able to receive those long balls more consistently, trap the ball, face forward, and find someone to link up play with, which Højlund has not been able to do. And I think that's why Amram in our latest game went with Xerxes over Højlund to start, because he's shown a little bit more consistency in that regard after admittedly Xerxes struggled when he first came to United with that. But all that to say, with our poor build-up play, if our strikers aren't able to hold up the ball, we're not going to be able to keep the ball right now because we haven't had enough time to get the snappiness in our passing, the speed in our passing, the speed in our decision-making. And so that's a big issue that United is facing because our defensive shape isn't good. So we aren't doing well without the ball, but then our build-up play isn't good, which means we can't keep the ball, so we're not doing well with the ball, and thus we lose control of games. Like we got no options.
Yeah.
And then the biggest issue number 3 is that amidst all that, we can still kind of prevent some open play chances for the most part. Like if you look at the open play XG conceded, it's been bad in like a couple games, like maybe against, I think it's Bournemouth. And I can't even remember if it was that bad against Brighton. There's been a couple games where it's been bad, but it hasn't been too bad. But then we'll go and commit an individual error where we just completely lose our heads. And the individual errors are often results of lack of confidence. So I think Amram needs to really focus on rebuilding the confidence in the squad, which is much easier said than done. And I think a lot of that will be addressed with just more time on the training ground and more familiarity with the system. And then also on top of that, we just need to add more quality into the team in general. And that's something that I don't think can be fixed with necessarily time on the training ground. I think we're just going to have to bring in more players and get rid of some of the deadwood in the squad, and kind of refresh the squad in that way. But just to summarize it, I think our defensive shape isn't allowing us to play good enough defense against teams. And then we can't build up play, which means we're losing the ball more than we should. And then on top of everything, there's just individual errors all over the pitch. There's not really any players in the team that are exempt from that either. It seems to be kind of like a sickness going around the team, for lack of a better term, to where the players are really feeding off each other. If one head drops, the rest of the players' heads drops. Like, we don't have the leadership or those people that are kind of dragging us up and taking the game by the scruff of the neck. I think Ahmad has tried to do that at times. Bruno has put in some good performances, but outside of that, there's not too many players that are consistently able to bring up the levels of our squad, and we're seeing people create or have big individual errors that are leading to goals against us. Let's see. Yeah. And then I spoke on bringing more quality into the squad, so I did want to touch on this for United. Here's some transfer news to look out for Manchester United moving forward. Anthony seems to be on his way out to Real Betis, and then Malacia is being discussed for a potential permanent transfer or loan move. Marcus Rashford, his team met with Barcelona today, and he met with the Barcelona directors. Marcus seems to be in the boat of he's very willing to train and come back into the Manchester United team, is what's being reported. But if he were to move, Barcelona is his top destination. I think Dortmund are looking at him as well, but he seems more keen on the Barcelona move. And if he doesn't find a move that he is actually happy about, I don't think he is going to just go to any other team just to leave United. So I think that's something to watch out for. I think his transfer saga will go towards the end of the transfer window, all the way into February, the first couple of days until the transfer window ends. And I would not be surprised to see him back at United after that, and maybe back into the first team. But until that situation is sorted, I don't expect to see him near a Manchester United team, at least till February. And then United are also looking to sign, his name is Patrick Dorgu from Lecce. He is a left wing back, but he's also been able to play right back and right wing. He's a left footer. So when he plays on the right side, he likes to cut in on his left foot, but he also can hold with and play on the left wing. He's young. He's 20 years old. He's a Denmark international player. Watched a little bit of him. I think he really raises our athletic floor. I'm not convinced. He still looks pretty raw technically, so I'm not totally convinced of his immediate impact into the team. I think he'd be a great signing for the long term. But as far as like immediately improving our team this season, sure, he probably helps because he seems like he could beat a man one-on-one on that left side, and kind of be more of a threat on that left side than Delo can. But I just wouldn't rely on him to consistently come in and light the Premier League on fire either. And then we've got Garnacho. I think reports are heating up again as the transfer window goes on. He seems like someone that could still potentially move for United as we look to kind of get some PSR money back by selling academy products. Napoli team still very keen on him, and there's discussions being thrown around with him and Victor Osimhen, some type of deal going on there. Maybe not a direct swap, but maybe Garnacho being sold for a discount now for a potential discounted Osimhen deal in the future. So that's something to watch out for. Me, as a Manchester United fan and someone that loves Garnacho, I don't want to sell him. I don't know how I feel about selling an academy product unless we really, really have to, at least a good academy product like Garnacho. I think for anything less than 60 million, I'm not even picking up the phone, just because he's had his struggles at times this season, but he's still, if you look at players from the beginning of last season till now, he's got the most goals and assists for any player that's, I think, 21 and under in the world. And so someone like that, I feel like you give him a chance to keep developing, because he could be an even more expensive player, someone that could actually be an important player for the team. And I wouldn't sell him out of desperation this window unless you really have to. Mm-hmm. And unless we're going to plan on replacing him with a guaranteed talented player in this window, which doesn't seem like we're being linked to any right now.
Yeah, I think it's way too early to sell Garnacho, but I also don't see anyone coming in for 60 million. I think that's too much given just kind of his consistency. Not to say that his talent level or potential isn't there, but I would find it hard to find someone that would be willing to pay 60 million for him. But at the same time, I think it's too early to sell him because I do think he has a high ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think the reason you set the price tag that high is because you don't want to sell him. Yeah. Like that, the only reason you would sell him is if someone came in with an offer that you can't refuse, essentially. Like, he's not someone that I think should even be up for sale, but if he is, we better come away with it like laughing to the bank, essentially.
Yeah, I just don't think there's like that And I think we're kind of getting to the same point, but I just don't see a team with the demand for Garnacho to pay that much. So yeah, I don't see him being sold unless you have a really desperate,
Mm.
or like you said, maybe Osimhen on like some type of crazy deal in the future. But um, yeah, who knows about that?
Yeah, exactly. It seems like the only teams that could afford him are the teams that have been reported as interested in him are Napoli because they've got a big hole left at left wing with Kvaratskhelia leaving, and they just
Hmm.
got a huge payout for him. So I think Antonio Conte is keen to build on what they've done in the Serie A and replace Kvara immediately. And then Chelsea seem to be monitoring the situation. I don't know why in the world they go in for another winger, but I mean that's their
It's
prerogative. And if
Chelsea.
they do, it sounds like Chelsea's willing to pay the money. But I really would hate to see Garnacho in a Chelsea jersey. That would be really, really painful for me.
That would be a tough one.
Yeah. Let's see. But that's all I really had on United. I think as far as outlook on the team moving forward, I think it's just going to continue to be inconsistencies. But I do think overall, I still feel the future's bright for both Amorim and United. I think it's just more so things were always going to be tough trying to completely change the system mid-season. Um, but I do think Amorim's a good manager, and I think on top of having tactics, I think Erik ten Hag had decent tactics. He just didn't have the man management to bring it out of the team. I think Amorim has good tactics, but he also has the personal human touch and the man management skills. I think it's just going to take time for that to come out. I do think he's growing a little bit more frustrated with the team, though. I heard there was some reports of a big dressing room not bust up, but tirade that he went on. Apparently, he doesn't address the team after the matches most of the time, which is interesting, at least immediately after the matches. But immediately after the Brighton match, apparently he went on a pretty angry rampage and ended up breaking a TV in the dressing room and whatnot. So it seems like he's trying to get on the team and get a reaction out of them, maybe try something different than he has been. So we'll see how the team responds in the Europa League game this Thursday.
Nice. So you guys play on Thursday?
We play Rangers at home, and it's a really big matchup for us because if we win this match, I think we get guaranteed top 8 spot and therefore don't have to play in the playoff rounds to make the knockout rounds.
Gotcha.
Yep. So, and the reason that's so important, I guess, to contextualize that is if we can avoid the playoff rounds, Amorim is dying to get more time on the training ground, and that means less midweek games, less games to play for the team in general, and more time to practice.
Yeah, nice. Well, before we move off of Manchester United, question: do you think United finishes in the top half of the season? Which is crazy in the first place. That it is a valid question.
Yeah.
To ask that past midway in the season because they're not. They're in the lower half. So do you guys
Mm-hmm.
finish in the top half?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's going to be, honestly, it will be close. We are now sitting at 7 points off the top half, but I do think we finish in the top half. I think there's too much quality in the squad, and as much as we keep thinking things can't get much worse, I do see maybe I'll say it depends on it depends on how we end the transfer window. I think if we can kind of sort out the squad a little bit, I think the team can kind of be more settled, get a little bit more time together, and kind of build some confidence together. I guess when I say what happens in the transfer window, the one thing I'm referencing who leaves. So I think if we can get rid of some players and bring in another player on loan, like an important player on loan, that would be huge. Bring in a wing back, I think that would be awesome. But then I think we also get resolution with the Marcus Rashford situation because if he ends up not leaving, I think if he ends up not leaving United, not that he was lighting the world on fire, but he was one of our top scorers before Amorim started leaving him out of the squad, and I don't see him being left out of the squad once he comes back, once this whole transfer saga is figured out. And if he can come back, he's someone that can contribute more goals and kind of help the team in his own right. And I just think ultimately at the end of January, I think the squad will be slightly stronger. Now, I don't think it's going to be strong enough to go push for any of the Europe spots, obviously, but I think it's strong enough to push for a top half spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just looking at this table right now. So in 7th is Bournemouth, 8th is Villa. I think they're going to finish ahead of you guys. And then after that, in 9th is Brighton, 10th is Fulham, 11th is Brentford, and 12th is Crystal Palace. Mm-hmm. I think Brighton drop out, but I think Fulham stay up there. I've been really impressed with them. So then after that, it's between you guys, Crystal Palace, Brighton, and Brentford all fighting for it. And all those teams I think Brentford's been super consistent. Palace have had a really tough start, but are getting a lot better. And Brighton have also been really consistent, especially attacking-wise, but look to maybe be getting better with hopefully Welbeck coming back. Originally, I was going to say yes, but I'm going to say no after looking at these teams you guys are going to be fighting with. But it'll be interesting to monitor nonetheless. I think
Yeah,
the mid table has actually been really impressive this season.
I agree.
Fulham's been super solid. Palace are getting better. Brentford have some big wins. Yeah, Bournemouth has been incredible. They're up to seventh. So yeah,
Yeah,
really impressive
yeah.
with the young
I'm
teams.
looking. I am as well. I'm looking at that. It's definitely like tough to pick who drops out. I think
Hmm.
Crystal Palace. I mean, they're still 12th, but I think Crystal Palace probably has a drop off just because they just lost Chalobah.
Yeah.
Not that he was like that key of a player for them, but I think it just makes them that much less depth. Brentford, I think, is someone that's kind of been a little inconsistent, like you said. So it really just comes between Villa, Brighton, Fulham, who I think drops off because I think Bournemouth will continue to have a strong season. I don't know what it is about Villa. I still think they're kind of a fake squad. They are making good signings though. They're adding to their squad. They just added Daniel Malin and then a new center back. I think it was Loic Bade. Um, so interesting to see how they kick on. But with Champions League, they still have a lot to kind of juggle there.
We talked
And
about earlier in the
then,
season how kind of boring they were, how they kind of did nothing,
hmm
and how we hated watching their games. And
hmm
yeah, I mean, like I said, for the first 60 minutes against us, I felt like they did nothing, and we just cried up in cruise control. But they still have these players that are like really athletic and can counter, and they can come up with big goals because there's talent there. But maybe it's just like Emery's system. But yeah, I kind of agree with your sentiment there. But there's still a good squad and good quality and good
yeah,
depth.
yeah. Yeah, I think this next game will be really important for us because we play Fulham next, and that's a
Yeah,
6 point swing right
yeah.
there. So if we can get a win against Fulham, again, big if, but if we can get a win against Fulham, that immediately closes the gap to the top 10 down to one.
Hmm.
And that's a lot more reachable. So we'll see. We'll
Nice.
see. Anything else, United?
Actually, I don't. Yeah, no, nothing else for me.
Nice. So enough about Arsenal United. Let's talk about the rest of the Premier League real quick, and then we'll do some lightning round predictions for the next round of Premier League games.
Sounds good.
One thing I want to touch on in the rest of the Premier League is Manchester City. I think they were a little bit of a laughing stock for some weeks now, but it seems like maybe a little bit too early to say, but it seems like they're slowly figuring it out. They're getting some wins in some cup competitions. They're undefeated in their last five. They haven't been playing the best competition, so I don't want to overreact too much to their performances on the pitch, but they have also brought in some new signings. They made a lot of moves in the transfer window so far. They've already successfully signed Kasanov, who was he's a young defender from the French league. It seems like he can play both right back and right center back, so he's going to add some depth in the defensive line there. They signed Vitor Rice, who is a young Brazilian center back. I don't know how ready either of those two are to come in and contribute immediately. But it'll be good for them just to have bodies there. And then they also signed, I think the marquee signing of the window for them is Omar Marmoush, who was the leading goal and assist player in the Bundesliga before he left. He was playing over at Frankfurt and lighting the world on fire over there. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of impact he can come in and have. It seems like they kind of brought him in to be a kind of a Julian Alvarez replacement, replace his goals and assists and kind of his transitional threat. He seems like someone that can kind of do it all. He can pick out a good final ball, but can also finish with the best of them as well. He's a transitional threat. City's definitely trying to bring in the reinforcements. And then the other big story coming out of City was Erling Haaland signed his huge contract extension through 2034. Apparently, it's one of the most lucrative contracts in the history of sports in general, let alone like the Premier League in soccer. I think they're saying he's on something crazy like 900 pounds a week or something like that, which is absolutely insane.
That's
Um,
ridiculous.
but really crazy to see Holland sign his future over to City like that for the next. I mean, that's 9 years of his life he just committed. 9.5 years of his life he just committed to City. And there was chatter in the background of Holland having some type of release clause for Real Madrid or Barcelona that might want to come in for him for a couple of years. And so I think him signing this contract is a big show of commitment to the City project. And also makes me think, did they beat the charges? You know, if they're able to do everything that they've done, and then they got Pep to re-sign, they just got Holland to sign this big, really, really big contract for the next few years. They brought in multiple signings. Like it seems like they're spending like they're not worried about anything bad happening to them necessarily. So I think that's something really interesting to watch out for.
Yeah, they must be really confident in them being in charge if Holland is willing to sign basically the rest of his career away. I find interesting players that do that. I personally, so much can change in 2 years, let alone nine. I don't know why you'd want to sign a contract for that long, but I guess it's a lot of money. He's got his reasons. He was convinced. But I just find that really interesting and don't know why people sign for that long of a contract.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And I feel like even if like that long of a contract with that high of wages is crazy because even if he signed a longer term contract but he kept the wages down, like I don't know, maybe he could like Like, there's no team that's going to be able to come in and basically match whatever City's doing for him for many, many years to come. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the hard thing for me is if he does eventually want to leave, if there's a bust up, if something happens with City, he wants to leave, it's gonna be almost impossible for anyone to afford him.
yeah. I don't know.
He must be
Hopefully,
really
he's got
happy.
a plan. Exactly, exactly. Let's see. What else do we got? We got new managers that have come into Everton and West Ham since we've last spoken. Graham Potter is the new manager at West Ham United. His first couple matches, the first match ended in a 3-2 win versus Fulham, but then the second match ended in a 0-2 loss against Crystal Palace. I'm interested to see what he does with West Ham. It really didn't work out with Lopetegui. I think Graham Potter is a great manager, so I'm hoping to see him do a little bit better and maybe use some of the players that they've got over there a bit more effectively. I think Mohamed Kudus is one of the most exciting players that I know of, and I would love to see him play in a team that's actually performing well. Same with Paqueta. They've honestly got a lot of talent in the team. Wambasaka's been playing all right this season. But yeah, not really sure what to think of them yet.
Yeah, it's a bummer that Fulker got injured right as Potter comes in,
Hmm.
or like right before he came in, because he would have been a good striker for for Potter to use. Yeah, but just exciting that West Ham get an exciting manager because there's a lot of quality and a lot of players in that team.
Yeah. And then moving over to Everton, we saw David Moyes come in. He managed the team for over a decade, way back in the day. And it seems like there was some back and forth between Sean Dyche and Everton execs that led to an early exit for him. I was reading up on it, and it sounds like Dyche was actually the one that went to the Everton. I think he knew he was done at the end of the season, and it was kind of like a gentleman's agreement that that would be the case. But it got to January, and he said, "You know what? I've done what I can with this team. I can't get any more out of this squad." I think there was probably some other arguments in the background that aren't outlined as detailed as that. But long story short, Dyche wanted out, and Everton, I think, actually wanted Graham Potter as their manager as well. But West Ham eventually pretty much signed him like the day before that they were trying to make a move for him. And so they ended up going with David Moyes. But I think as far as replacements, for if you're replacing a manager that you didn't expect to have to replace, I think that's a good replacement. He's still an established Premier League manager that's shown what he can do and at least keeping a team mid-table. And Everton is in the or close to the relegation zone. So let's hope David Moyes can work his magic and keep them up. They just put up together a pretty. He lost his first match 0-1, I believe. I don't know if he was in charge for that match or not, but he did beat Tottenham this past weekend 3-2. They were up 3-0 at one point in the game, and it looked like they were really rolling. I didn't watch the game, but I think they put up a pretty good performance against them.
Yeah, Tottenham looked really bad. Tottenham suck right now, which is hilarious. They're all the way down to
Yeah,
15th. They're not getting enough shtick, in my opinion, for how bad they've been. They've been getting away with it for a bit. Like I've been talking crap to any of my friends, and I'm an Arsenal fan. I need to get those texts out while they're in 15th place. But yeah, they've been terrible. I think Ange needs to take more responsibility for his tactics and play more sensibly because yeah, he's got a ton of injuries in the back line, especially, but they're just wide open in midfield, and his defense is getting killed, and they're not Dragusin and poor Gray is getting eaten.
yeah.
Poor kid. Poor
Poor
kid.
Archie Gray, man.
Yeah.
Poor Archie Gray.
He was not even a center back, and he's playing, getting forced into his first season at like 18 years old with a Dragusin. Just them two back there with like four people attacking at them half the game is ridiculous. But hilarious
Yeah,
to watch.
man.
But poor kid.
Yeah. I feel so bad for him, man. He's like you said, not even a center back, just being forced in such like a shitty situation for him, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better for him until someone can come back. But yeah, Spurs I think have been getting away with being pretty bad for a while because they would mix it in with like a random 5-1 win against some random team in between. But I think Ange is in a really interesting spot right now because the pressure's obviously on. He's got terrible luck with injuries. Like they've got one of the worst injury records in all of the league. But at the same time, I think Ange is in a particularly interesting spot because he's come out and said from the very beginning, we're going to play my way and my way only. We're not going to adapt. And so I think with him coming out and saying that, obviously the logical thing to do at this point would be to like lock it down and try and be a little bit more pragmatic. But then are you undermining your whole philosophy and your whole, way of play by are you undermining your whole message by changing things up at this point? Like, obviously, it seems logically you've lost 4 out of your last 5 matches. I don't even know what the run is like more. Those are the 5 games that I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you do at this point? Do you go against your philosophy that you said that you won't ever go against, or do you try and get some results? Or do you think you have the trust of the club to keep the philosophy going and hope that when injuries come back, it'll be better? I don't know.
I mean, my opinion is you got to change it up. It's clearly not working. Change it. Have some. Be able to look at yourself and see that what you're putting together, what you're telling your team to do is not working, and go back on what you say and Yeah, you got to change in my opinion, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with Ange. I don't know if he can. I think the pressure is building. I don't think it's super high pressure for him right now, just because he's got the excuse of injuries. But it'll be really interesting to see how they start performing once they get some of these key players back. But at this point, it seems like there's. I wouldn't even say treading water. They're just actively sinking right now.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Let's see. You want to touch on Bournemouth as well?
Yeah, I just thought Bournemouth were really good. They had a really hot start, dropped off a little bit, I thought, but I thought they've been getting better and like really finding form again, even despite Evan Nelson being injured. It's great to see Tyler Adams back and healthy. Seems like he's getting into it with like a different player every week, which I kind of love to see in midfield. He's very combative. Love to see that from the U.S. men's national team player. But yeah, they're just playing well, scoring lots of goals, and got some great talent on the team, and I think really well coached. Semenyo's been killing me in fantasy. I benched in the past 2 weeks. He got me 12 and 5 on my bench, which he went for a long spell without getting anything. So I can't really fault my logic for benching him, but the results there are hurting a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. He was one that I had on my team for a while, and I even started him for so many weeks in a row, and then disappointed as soon as I transferred him out. Of course, he starts scoring, and I think, I mean, it makes sense because I think Evan Nelson's hurt, so he's starting in a more attacking role these last few weeks, but still, it hurts to see when he's not in my team.
Yeah.
Let's see. Real quick before we go on to lightning rounds, I did want to touch on some transfer news. I already touched on most of these, so I won't go into too much detail, but over the next week or two, we need to watch out for Rashford to either Barcelona or Dortmund, or potentially staying at United. United are looking to bring in the young left wing back, Patrick Dorgu from Lecce, but Lecce came out today and said that they want to keep their best players, including Patrick, so it seems like they don't want to let go of him for any cheap amount. There's still rumors about Garnacho, like we mentioned earlier in the pod. And then one that I thought was huge, actually, that we haven't talked about is Matheus Cunha. It has come out, it was thought that he signed a new contract with Wolves, and that would make him a lot more difficult to get for any team this January. But it was revealed, I think, earlier today or yesterday that he actually has not signed his new contract proposal from Wolves, which means that I believe he's still open and available to be sold to anyone in January, with his contract expiring at the end of the season, and Wolves not wanting to lose him for free. And then on top of that, the new manager came out and said that he did not like Cunha's body language after the last match. And so it seems like there could be some issues with the new manager that has just come in as well. So I think this is a good market opportunity for anyone that wants to strengthen their squad with a good player that is Prem proven. I've seen the likes of Arsenal linked to him. I've seen people at United discussing a potential move for him. I'm not sure where exactly he'll end up. I think it's likely he could end up back at Wolves, but still something really important to watch out for moving forward, which I thought was crazy.
Yeah, Arsenal, I saw that today. Arsenal should really go after him hard. He would be perfect signing for what we need. Premier League proven, can score goals, can play in a lot of different positions, and can create goals himself by just dribbling and making a goal and getting his shots off. He'd be a great signing for us as long as he keeps his head calm.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he'd be that moment of magic player that I was talking about, essentially. And then on top of that, we saw Julian Enciso. He is being I think Brighton has reached an agreement with Ipswich to let him go there on a season-long loan. So he's going to work his way into the Ipswich team, as well as Philogene, who was at Villa. Ipswich just worked out a permanent transfer for him. Seems like he never could get going at Villa, and Villa really just, at the end of the day, wanted to cash in on him. So they sent him over to Ipswich, where he'll probably get some more playing time as well.
It's awesome that Ipswich picked up Enciso, just because Enciso's a really exciting player. I remember him scoring some sweet goals. I think it was end of last season. So just to see him play more time would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's someone that kind of got forgotten in Brighton over the last year or so, because he was a key player for them. And like you said, he scored some sick goals. I think it was not last season, but the season before that, he had the goal of the season against Manchester City. It was like an incredible long shot. So he seems like a really talented player that just could probably use some more game time. So I'm glad he was freed up and able to go over there, like you said.
Brighton has so many young, talented players. You can see him being hard getting into that squad. So yeah, excited to see him. Hopefully, get some more time with Ipswich.
Yep. Let's see. Outside of that, there's been some couple other moves. Diego Carlos leaves Aston Villa to go to Fenerbahce, and then I think they're looking to bring in Loic Bade from outside. But a few more moves that are still being worked on. We'll keep you up to date on those in future pods. But for now, after that, let's go over to our lightning rounds. Unless you got anything else Premier League to talk about.
Nothing else from me.
All right, nice. All right, so just as a reminder, these lightning rounds are where we go through the next week's Premier League matches, give our determination of whether we think it'll be a win, loss, or draw for whatever team. And then we are keeping a season-long tracker, and we're going to do, I forget what we agreed we want to do as far as a reward at the end of the season, but we are keeping track right now. Spain, we've only done it for one game week, It was game week 17 a while back. Spain got 4 out of 10 correct, and I got 3 out of 10. So he's got a 1-game lead on me going into this week.
It's actually the second time we've done it.
Excuse me.
So I was 3 for 10. You were 4 for 10 the first week, so we're tied 7 for 20 right now.
Oh, nice. I didn't even realize. All right. So level playing field right now. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let me pull up the fixtures, and then we can go into that.
Yeah, we still need to figure out what we want to do. We were saying something small-ish for the other team, like a mug or something. Arsenal related if I win, something United related for you. Not like quite a kit, but something in between like a mug and a kit.
Yeah. It'd be fun if we, I don't know if we can get some people to follow along with us throughout the season, but have people submit their picks before the end of the season, kind of do our own like little pick and pull and kind of keep track of people's picks. And if someone can win like the Let's Talk Ball listener pick 'em award, that would be awesome.
That would be fun. We can give out a mug.
Yeah, give out a nice mug to somebody. Mm-hmm. All right. So I've got the matches for next week pulled up. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I think that's how we've been doing it lately.
All right. That works for me. And once again, the first team that I say, actually, I'll just say who's hosting who, so it's clear.
Yeah.
So first game is going to be Saturday, 10 a.m., and it is going to be Bournemouth hosting Nottingham Forest. So that's a good one. Draw. Nice. Okay. Next game, we have Brighton hosting Everton.
Brighton.
Liverpool. Go ahead.
It really depends if Danny Welbeck's back or not. I don't know. I think he is, but yeah, Brighton.
He played last week against United, so.
Okay, cool.
And then we've got Liverpool hosting Ipswich.
Liverpool.
Okay. Southampton at home to Newcastle.
Newcastle.
Mm-hmm. Then we got Wolves hosting your Gunners.
Arsenal.
All right. Next, we got a big matchup. City hosting Chelsea.
This is a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go...
Okay. All right. I like that. And then we got Crystal Palace hosting Brentford on Sunday.
Palace hosting Brentford. Crystal Palace.
All right. Spurs hosting Leicester on Sunday.
Leicester.
I like that.
Doing it mostly for the bit, but why not?
I mean, that's a great one to kind of hang your hat on.
Yeah, the Tottenham was so bad right now.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, Leicester have been pretty bad too, but
it's so bad. Tottenham, I'm sticking with Leicester.
I gotcha. And then we got Villa hosting West Ham.
Villa.
All right. And last game is 2 p.m. on Sunday. Weird time, actually. I didn't realize. Fulham hosting Manchester United.
Fulham.
All right. That wraps it up for your round. I am ready.
All right. 1 second. Okay. All right. First up, Bournemouth hosting Nottingham Forest.
That's a tough one, like you said. I am going to go with... I'm actually going to go with Bournemouth.
Nice. Brighton hosting Everton.
Give me a draw.
Okay. Liverpool hosting Ipswich.
Liverpool.
Southampton hosting Newcastle.
Newcastle.
Wolves hosting Arsenal.
I'm going Arsenal.
City hosting Chelsea.
Another really tough one.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with... What did Chelsea do this last week?
They drew. They gave up... Didn't they draw?
Yeah, I think they did.
No, Chelsea won 3-1, my bad, to Wolves.
Oh, did they? Oh, yeah. Oops. Well...
They drew against Bournemouth the previous week to the late
gotcha.
exchange free kick.
Gotcha. I'm still going to go City.
I think City are coming into form at home.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably... I think it's a good call. Either out draw. Tottenham hosting Leicester.
Tottenham.
Sensible. Crystal Palace hosting Brentford.
Give me Crystal Palace.
Yeah, they've been finding form. Aston Villa hosting West Ham.
Give me a draw.
And Fulham hosting your team.
I feel like I should emotionally hedge here, but I'm going to pick United.
Nice. Yeah, honestly, I'm pretty confident in Fulham just because I think they've been super solid this year. But
I don't disagree. But I don't know. I'm going with my boys.
Mm-hmm. The Villa West Ham game will be interesting just because it'll be a little more time for Potter with West Ham, and we've both kind of agreed Aston Villa are good, but haven't been like up to like their best this year. So I think that'll be an interesting matchup, one to watch. But yeah,
Aston Villa.
Sorry, and then Bournemouth Forest is gonna be an awesome game to watch, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great game. I'm glad they didn't make it to the 7:30 Eastern time game either.
I don't see a 7:30 game this weekend.
Yeah, I guess there isn't one. I don't know why.
5 10 a.m. games. It's gonna be fun to keep up with all that.
Yeah, I'm glad Peacock finally has multi-view.
Yeah,
where you can like switch between the games easily.
Or Goal Rush.
I watch multi-view. Goal Rush, I think, is just a little bit behind. At least it is on like other platforms. So yeah, I hate getting it ruined just because I'm in like multiple soccer messages. So I hear people sending texts about the stuff. So what I have been doing, which isn't ideal, but whenever I see that there's a goal, I just switch over to that game and then rewind like a minute or two just to like see the build up to the goal,
Okay,
and then kind of have been doing it like that.
nice. Yeah, I like goal rushes
Um,
if it's a good game. Because I was watching like the best game or a good game, but
mhm.
recently it hasn't been like that good of games. But yeah, back
Yeah,
to your Villa. We're gonna say Villa West Ham.
yeah. Villa, I was gonna say Villa. I'm pretty sure lost today in the Champions League as well.
Oh, really? Did
Um,
not see that.
they played Monaco. They played Monaco and lost 1-0. They played a pretty terrible game against them.
Hmm. I have
Granted,
to go
Monaco is at home,
watch.
and Monaco isn't terrible, but yeah, Villa looked pretty bad today from what I saw.
Yeah, I feel like Villa have been pretty bad in the Champions League this season.
They started off strong. They were like top of the table for a little bit with Liverpool.
Oh, I forgot. Oh, you're right. They actually were off to a great start. Forget that.
Yeah, because they beat Bayern in like one of the first games of the Champions League and a couple other big wins.
You're right. You're right.
But again, I don't know. Something about them. I watch them. I'm not filled with confidence. Let's
Yeah,
see.
excited for you.
You want to move on to FPL now?
Yeah, let's do. Let's talk it.
All
Sure.
right.
I'm still in fifth place in our mini league. Feel like I got up to first, dropped down to second, and slowly been kind of like dropping a little bit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I am about 50 points off first, so not terrible, definitely doable, and 35 off second. I'm also definitely still
Nice.
in the race. I'm up to 5 free transfers, been rolling a bunch, been pretty passive with my team, which I'm fine with. I've been really happy with like my general structure and team. But lately, not the best week. Scored 43 points and really had a lot of players who did not return. The returners were Trent with 11 points, Robinson with 8, Lewis Hall with an assist for 4 points, and that's it. Everyone else got me 1, 2, or 3. So yeah, pretty bleak. Semenya with 5 on the bench, not killer. Was thinking about starting him, maybe over João Pedro, but he was playing United and he almost scored. I think he scored and got it called back or something, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I was
Yeah, I called it back.
yeah, I was really excited when that went in, but was bummed. But yeah, overall, I'm really annoyed with Nico Jackson. He's like my biggest pain point right now because held on to him for so long and thought he would be an upgrade over Chris Wood. So I got burned by going him over someone like Chris Wood. So I
Hmm.
think I'm going to move him out, but that's probably the only really move I'm looking at. Luis Diaz has been annoying recently, but with Liverpool's double coming up in 24, I'm just going to hold him until then at least.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. I like the patience, at least with rolling the transfers. I think having transfers going into the double, and then I think the manager chip is coming out, or not manager chip, but the manager position is coming out soon as well.
Hmm.
Seems like you're gonna have a lot of flexibility to kind of make some moves and adjust as you need to.
That's what I'm hoping for. I think I'm going to do Nico Jackson into Mateta. Like Chris Wood is probably the obvious one, but looking at his fixture, I think the Force have a really hard run coming up. They got like 3 away games and then home games against Arsenal and like Liverpool. No, they just play Liverpool, Arsenal, and someone that's good at home. Maybe City. I think City
Hmm.
after us. I think Chris Wood is gonna have a rough go. He could. I mean, he's been inevitable this season. He's been great, so that could be a bad take and it could burn me. But I like Mateta's fixtures better, so I think I'm gonna go Jackson to Mateta is the plan as of now.
Nice. 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 I am a Mateta owner, so I can definitely recommend. That was kind of the decision making that I went through a couple weeks back. I brought in Mateta for, I don't know if it was like Hoyland or someone that I had in my front line, maybe Cunha. But I thought about going to Chris Wood at the time, and do I regret it a little bit? Yes, but Mateta's been able to keep up somewhat with Chris Wood. Obviously, not scoring as many points, but at least not being left in the dust completely.
Hmm.
The reason I didn't go for Chris Wood was purely the fixtures as well. I looked at the fixtures and I thought, I mean, there's no way Forrest can keep this up, and especially Chris Wood can keep this up, right? But it seems like
Yeah.
he is. He's like one of the most, if not the most, inevitable player in the league right now, which is crazy to say.
Hmm.
Um, so we'll see. Maybe I transfer out João Pedro to him if I can free up some funds elsewhere. But it doesn't look like I'll be able to. But I have been rolling my transfers. I've been kind of taking the approach that you have over the last few weeks of rolling my transfers when I can. I've got 3 free transfers now at this point going into the next week. I was on 54 points last week, so I'm pretty happy with my team. Trent was definitely a standout with 11, and then Mateta with his brace, I believe it was, had 13 points. Or I
Hmm.
don't even, was it a brace?
Yeah, he had a penalty and an open play goal.
Nice. And then I think the only disappointment from this week was Robinson on my bench yet again. Robinson had an 8 pointer. This one was tough because I genuinely considered starting him this week over Cole Palmer when I thought Cole Palmer was going to be hurt. And then I left Cole Palmer in just because I was like, worst case scenario, he'll get subbed out. Because would my defender have come on, right, if he was the first person on my bench?
Mm-hmm.
That's how that works, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was kind of my logic. I was thinking like Cole Palmer probably won't play, or if he does play, he'll return. And then he didn't either, or he did play and then didn't return.
Yeah.
So that kind of hurt me a little bit.
And Robinson outscored him.
And Robinson outscored him on top of that. So that definitely hurt because that was something I was debating for a while leading up to the deadline. And then something that's kind of been the bane of my existence is this double Arsenal defense. I think Gabriel's been good because he's good for a goal here and there, but Raya, I think, is one I'm struggling for funds in my team, and I think Raya is one that might be sacrificed for a cheaper goalkeeper at this point. And just in order to free up some funds because I really want to upgrade on Enzo, but I don't have that much free money in the bank. So I think I'm going to try and upgrade on Enzo Fernandez or upgrade on João Pedro by freeing up some money with my keeper position. But I'm not sure. I need to look at who's out there right now and before I end up making that move.
Yeah, Enzo's been tough because a lot of people bought him late, and then he's done nothing and just dropping in price like crazy, I've heard. So he's really hard to get out of the team. I think that's a really good move. I don't think our defense is it right now. You got the Gabriel users kind of got burned by not getting the assist in the North London derby. So that was a tough break. I got lucky as a non-Gabriel owner. But yeah, I benched Timber this week against Aston Villa, and it worked out in my favor because all three of my defenders returned. Yeah, I think it would be a good move to get rid of Raya so you can upgrade Enzo.
Yeah. So that's probably what I end up doing going into this week, just so I can get another option there. But I am pretty happy with a midfield four of Ahmad, Bruno, Palmer, Salah. I guess I wouldn't want to be double invested in United just with their inconsistency. But at the same time, I mean, Ahmad popped off with that hat trick against Southampton, which was a huge, something like 20 points
So
there.
That was like 3 weeks of anything for you.
Exactly. And then Bruno is still on pens, which he ended up getting against Brighton, which was huge. And I think my only issue with Bruno right now is that he keeps, in games, we've taken off our pivot players and shifted Bruno a bit deeper, farther away from goal, which is something that I've noticed. So maybe I just have a tough time getting rid of Bruno because he's on penalties and he does, watching the games, he's very, very involved in almost everything we do offensively. But I think I'm also scared of not having enough Newcastle cover with the way that they've been playing. I think I got lucky with Gordon and Hall not really doing too much last week. But I think I'm thinking about getting one of those two in, maybe Anthony Gordon if I can.
Yeah, I think I'd be pretty happy moving on Bruno. He's been great returning for you. Like you said, I feel he moves pretty deep. And he's not that highly owned, so you're not going to get really burned. You're just going to get hurt really badly if you take him out when he calls because you're a big United fan and you owned him. But I think he can be someone that you move on if you need to find someone cheaper, find funds, or want to move. What do you think of Foden? We didn't talk about Foden at all. We talk about City.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get him just because I dislike Foden, and he's so consistent. You never know when he's going to pop up, but when he does, he always gets a double-digit return. So I'm not going to go to Foden yet. I'm not convinced enough by him or City, and he's not good enough to really make a difference, but he could be someone that's worth looking into.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye on him. I've thought about him as I figured City might kind of come back up, but as someone that's a Foden hater, I feel like it's wrong to go against my word there and bring Foden into my team. I think I'm more inclined to, I'm thinking about maybe going back to Mbuemo or whatever, however you say it, because his upcoming fixtures are Crystal Palace away, and then he's got Tottenham at home, and then he's got West Ham away, Leicester away, and then Everton at home. So I'm thinking about maybe going for him, just as a differential with him being on pens. Not differential, I guess. I think a lot of people still have him, but that's just I think he's a slightly cheaper option than Bruno.
Yeah, I was looking at Wissa for Nico Jackson because I also like Bournemouth's fixtures a lot. I don't like this week that much away to Crystal Palace, but like you said, after this week, I think Brentford's fixtures are really good. So I think Wissa and Bournemouth are both great options. So I'm thinking holding. I might go Diaz to Mbuemo in the near future after the double.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm also in a place where I'm trying to regain some team value. So I'm trying to figure out if there's anybody that I can move for maybe slightly early, but that I see other people moving towards to see if I can get some value back into my team. Because I think I've kind of been screwed over by some late price changes and stuff like that recently. So that's another consideration I've got with my team. But I'm kind of scared to make moves. I feel like for the longest time, every time I made a move, it was backfiring. And then now that I've started rolling my transfers, my team is actually getting green arrows again. So I don't know.
I see. I saw you on 4 reds, but on back-to-back 2 greens. So love to see that
Hmm.
trending in the right
Exactly.
direction again.
Exactly. Just got to get some momentum back into the team, get some belief back into the squad is what I'm shooting
Hmm.
for.
Yeah, damn, I'm on 3 reds in a row. That's not good. Time to
Yeah.
right the ship.
Gotcha. Well, you got anything else FPL or Premier League in general?
No, I don't think so.
Gotcha. All right. Well, if that is the case, we can wrap it up. We've been going for a while now. We're about an hour, 20 minutes in. Thank you guys again for tuning in. We will see how the lightning rounds end up. We'll see how this next round of FPL ends up and talk to you guys next week.
See everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Peace.